What's up and welcome to FPL Today. I'm your host JNO. Welcome to the channel and welcome to another FPL player analysis where today we're going to focus in on Javier Hernandez, Chicharito's £16 million move to West Ham from Bayern Leverkusen. But before we get into the video, if you enjoy FPL content and want help for the Fantasy Premier League 2017-2018 season, consider subscribing to the channel where we're currently going through 30 days of FPL where we do a video every day about the Fantasy Premier League. But on with the video, and today we are looking at Javier Hernandez, who has gone to West Ham. West Ham have finally started to do some transfer business and finally start to look to be building a stronger squad and not relying on that one player who left the squad after deciding he didn't want to play for us anymore when we are the ones that gave him his chance and got him world attention. But enough about my dislike for Dimitri Payet now. We are focusing on the little Mexican, Javier Hernandez, and people are excited, not only West Ham fans who now have a striker that has proven himself to be a goal scorer, but Fantasy Premier League fans are excited as well because he is coming in at £7 million in the Fantasy Premier League game, which is a great price in my mind for a player of Javier Hernandez's quality. However, before we get into his strengths, weaknesses, style of play and his stats over the last 3 seasons, part of me is a little bit worried that a lot of this focus and a lot of this attention and praise for Javier Hernandez as a player is down to the fact that he had one amazing season at Leverkusen, and then other than that, he's never been one of those amazing strikers who is consistently scoring goals. That may be down to the fact though that he's never really been given a chance to be a first team nailed on striker. Now, with players that used to play in the Premier League, if their absence has been for long enough, sometimes fans in general just kind of big them up in their heads and remember them as better players than they were, and then they come back and they aren't as good as they used to be. So I hope that isn't the case. As someone who follows West Ham and watches a lot of West Ham games, I hope Javier Hernandez comes in and starts scoring goals like he did for Leverkusen that first season, and if he does, he's going to be a Fantasy Premier League must. But as always, I'm always wary of a new player to a new league, to a new club, under a new manager. Who knows how it is all going to work out. With that being said, I do feel like Javier Hernandez is a safer risk than some of the newer players to a Premier League environment. We'll move on to his strengths and weaknesses and style of play now, and his strength is his finishing. He is known as a clinical finisher, a fox in the box, one that can pounce on chances. He can score good goals and he can score ugly goals, but as long as he's scoring, whichever team he's playing for is of course naturally going to be happy. His weaknesses, he is not an aerial threat, which doesn't really match how West Ham are seen by the general public and the kind of strikers they buy. If you look at the strikers we've bought before, Andy Carroll, we've recently brought in Arnautovic, a lot of times people think we need a tall striker to be getting those headed goals. We do have players that can whip a good cross in. Lanzini, Cresswell, definitely players that can put a ball into the box. But I do believe there's more to West Ham's game than this, and that is why I think Javier Hernandez could be a great asset to the club. And we have brought in Arnautovic that can be a threat in the air. Another weakness, however, is his offside awareness. For a player with the pace of Javier Hernandez, and I'm not sure if he's still got that pace, but I'm assuming he has, he gets caught offside a lot. He tries to play off the last man, but because he's so eager to play it perfectly, he seems to often find himself in an offside position when the last defender just takes a quick step forward and that ruins a chance through on goal. Other aspects of his style of play, he is actually an indirect set-piece threat. He scored a lot of his goals from set-pieces when the ball gets lost in the defence and Javier Hernandez is the one there to poke it away. Looking at his 2016-2017 season, which we did look at yesterday in the FPL transfer window video, he has played 20 games for Bayern Leverkusen last season, scored 11 goals and got 3 assists, which is a return of 14 goals he was involved in last season for Leverkusen. His shots per game was at 2 and his key passes was at 0.8, giving him 2 Man of the Match awards and an average rating of 6.89. Now that isn't amazing stats, but considering how many games he had, 11 and 3, 14 goals involved in 20 appearances is a very good return. If he had had more games, potentially he could have been just under the 20 goal mark, and at 7 million in the Fantasy Premier League game, that is definitely worth your money. Moving on to the 2015-2016 season, and this is where a lot of fans were laughing at Manchester United because they were struggling for goals in that season and they had sold a player to Leverkusen who in 25 appearances got 17 goals and 2 assists, and I believe a lot of those goals came in the first half of the season. Shots per game had risen to 2.3 compared to the season after. His key passes was also at 1. No man of the match awards, but he did get an average rating of 7.1. A very good season from Javier Hernandez there, and if he can replicate that season at West Ham, 19 goals involved in, at West Ham for 7 million, that would be an amazing cheap striker to have, and I can see his price skyrocketing if he does show that kind of form. That is why we need to be ready to jump on this player if he does show any signs of that kind of form. Get him in quickly. And then finally, 3 seasons ago, 2014-2015 season, we have his time at Real Madrid, where he went there on loan from Manchester United, and in that season he had 7 appearances with 7 goals and 4 assists. Shots per game was at 1.3, key passes was at 0.5, man of the match awards was at 0, and his average rating was at 6.79. Now the average rating isn't great there, but as you can see, he was still involved in 11 goals, despite the fact that at Real Madrid he really was a fringe player, just there to kind of make up the numbers and be the player they could play up front if there were any injuries or if they needed to make a substitution because the player was getting tired. So we can see that he does score goals. The idea is that he'll come into West Ham and score loads as the first team striker. At least that's what a lot of people are hoping for. He definitely, if he's given 38 games and stays fit, has the potential to be an absolutely explosive option in the Fantasy Premier League game. But as I always say, are we just remembering his time from being in the Premier League and his one stellar season where he was a first team striker as the examples we're going to focus on and put him straight into our side? I'm going to wait and see. It may backfire on me, but generally it's the safest option is to wait and see and rely on more concrete options that are already there in the Fantasy Premier League game. But I am excited by the prospect of Javier Hernandez at West Ham as a follower and as a Fantasy Premier League manager. Anyway guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button. Check the description, there's plenty of ways you can support the channel. We've had a rise in people supporting the channel on Patreon, which is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for supporting the content I produce. Subscriber growth, we might be on 3,000 when this video goes up. I don't know. We're around 2,950 as I'm recording this. Hopefully 30 Days of FPL will continue with a video every day. I have a very busy weekend, so fingers crossed. If you joined the stream yesterday night where we did some FPL drafts, hi guys, I hope you had so much fun last night. I will try and do more if I can keep the amount of drafts I'm in down, but we do have more plans with drafts. Generally I'm going to try and stream around 8:30, so if you are around at home on YouTube, check out my streams, they're a lot of fun. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.